Hello. Sorry, that was weird, wasn't it? Today I'm taking over yet again to irreparably ruin a couple of letters. In fact, one letter. So, today we're going to do the Q. And the Q is one of those horrid letters that is grossly underestimated. After all, it is more than an O and not yet a P. So let's see what we can do with this type of letter. Let's start simple. How simple? Very simple. We start with until. Until, as always, half round, straight down. Half round, straight down. Are we getting this? How about once more? Half round, straight down. The crucial bit of this joyous scenario is that you should make sure that your descender there ends at an oblique angle. So if you do this, that is incorrect, right? Make sure you maintain an angle because that gives it that very nice oblique look at the end, which I always think is rather pleasant. Now, you could, of course, move from until, which is what that was, written in the most horrid fashion possible, to something like foundational. Now remember, last time we did the P, and the advantage of the P is, if you can really manage that, then you can probably also do the Q, because the Q is just a P, but the other way around. So if you really cannot do it, then really learn how to do a P well and supply people with a little pocket mirror. But provided that is maybe not an option, here we go. Until Q. Bit more rounded off, and there you go. So again, nice and round, and ended up. Those little end flourishes are kind of what makes the until. Now, it's a little difficult because the until P, right, you could do something like this. But now you move, with this part, you're moving from left to right. Right, and that's easy. It's a little harder to do that from right to left. So you have to experiment a little bit with how you want to do that. I always think that starting with the bowl is easiest. There you go. That's a very nice round Q. Now, what have we here? A Lamy Safari. So, what would it look like? Slightly different nib, right? Different ink. When you're doing the foundational, really make sure you round everything up, because if it's not round, it's not foundational, and that really is a problem. Okay, now then, we have done this. Let's move on to something fun. A slightly flexy endeavor, right? We can do a cursive Q, or CQ, as the kids say. This is how I was taught to do a Q. Right? You should connect it to the previous letter, go down, and then you have that thing going on. Oh, that was wrong, wasn't it? You have to be careful, because if you do that, you get a G. So the thing with the Q is that you really have to make sure that your ascender goes up and does not cross over, because it's very easy to go from Q to a G. Okay, so there is that. Oh, that was a G again, wasn't it? Yes. So we're not doing G's. Utterly outlawed. Not allowed. What else can you do? Well, you could do some sort of fracture, as it were. Hello, Annabelle. I saw you. A fracture. Now, simple, lowercase Gothic. Let's start with that. There. That was a pretty simple Q in a lowercase Gothic. Let's do that again. It's always very angular, very straight lines. And the trick with these things in Gothic is always that you should be able to fill the center with one stroke, right? And I'll show you why. If you don't, but you write your letters like this, they look out of balance. Gothic is a very narrow script. So let's do that once more. Can make it a bit fancier. There you go. That will be a reasonable Q. Now, I think what we should do is flip the page. Now let's look at a slightly fancy, say, fracture-esque, or maybe let's call it Old English. An Old English capital Q. How could you do that? Because people always need to know how to do the capitals because they look so cool. Okay, so straight line, turn into a circle. Go down, little line, little flourish, and go down again. Now I notice this is some inky goodness going on here. That nib is leaking a bit too much, and you end it up. So I'm going to take a cloth here, get some ink out. I've just pulled out the entire nib unit, so there's ink everywhere now. The things I do for you. Let's try that again, while it's a bit drier. Straight line, circle, straight down, line. All right? Finish up the circle. Okay, now we have this shape. Little flourish, line down, little bit of flourish, stock. Now we have everything. We have a beautiful Q. There's so much fun to do that we're going to do it once more. Straight, round, straight, bend, flourish, round, stick-like thing, little flourish, final stick. Isn't that a beautiful Q? That is a beautiful Q. In it. Okay. Now, just because we have another pen lying here, that's a Sailor Music nib, so we should be able to do something like this with that nib as well. It does right. Down. This would be a little less fine. And a stock. So we can do all these extremely fun things. All right. Yes, Janine raises the valid point because I was thinking of a couple of words that we could write with the Q, but here we run into an issue. Q, R, S, T, U, and we haven't done the U yet. And most words in the English language that have a Q are borrowed words from, say, Latin, and it's Q-U, Q-U-A, etc. So I have come up with the following solutions. I'm going to write a couple of words with a Q that you can write if you have not yet learned how to do a Q. So here we go. Bear with me. these are all letters that you have already learned. So here we would have, I'm just showing you to make sure that you know you have all these letters in your arsenal, right? Chicken. Okay, so what can you do with this? I'm a strong proponent of emphasizing the use of the Q in everyday writing. I think the Q, as I said, is an underrated letter, more than an O, not exactly a P. So we can use this in many fun ways and save ourselves some time. For example, here I have chicken spelled with a Q, much better, saves a letter, saves you at least 2 seconds of work. If you do cursive, saves you at least half a second. So here is one of the many interesting things you can do. Now, here is another word. I'm just taking a sip of tea, where I think you'll agree with me that the Q adds rather a lot to your life. What are you doing today? Oh, well, I had to pay the carpenter, so I'm going to the bank. Again, Q is much better, much more convenient than the K would be in this case. Okay? I shall show you yet another example where the Q is vastly superior to another letter. All right? Yesterday, it
might be low on ink.
You see, I'm giving pens that are not even inked. This is the type of stuff I have to deal with. I'll grab another pen. Yesterday, I assembled a giant IKEA cupboard. Afterwards, I felt rather tired, so I went for a quick kip. You see, another excellent example of the Q being superior to, in this case, the K.
I feel like I should intervene and just stop. That's okay. Come on. Do another word.
We can do another word, of course. You know, I'm not going to do it with this pen. I'm going to do it with this pen. No, I've done that one already. I'm going to do it with this pen. Have you heard anything recently from that very interesting and slightly eccentric aunt you have? No is the short answer. I have not, because she is crazy with a Q. Again, works much better with a Q.
We haven't done Z or Y.
Well, you can't have everything, so that's just too bloody bad, isn't it? Otherwise, you can just, if you really find that a problem, you can just look at it this way. If you really have not yet done the R, Z, or A, we're just going to write QA for quality assurance. There you go. Now, I think that was all we should do for this week. Next week, we shall return with the R, so that you know exactly where you are in life. And that's all there's to it. I hope this was very useful. I wish you a very merry weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye!